Hello and welcome to Generation Equipped Ministries. One of the things that I really enjoy is occasionally getting to partner with other ministries or influencers of the youth of this culture and pastors that have a similar desire and passion to help equip the youth of our generation to have a confident faith. This week I had the opportunity to sit down with Pastor Matt Andrews from Wildwood Calvary Chapel in Yucaipa, and I think you'll enjoy the conversation. But we just talked about our common heart that we have for the youth of this generation. What are some of the struggles and challenges that they're facing? And what can we do as influencers or those that are leading young people? What can we do to help them navigate the culture that they live in? I'll let Matt tell you a little bit about himself, but just briefly, he's been involved in children's ministry prior to youth ministry for about 8 years. And in the last 3 years, I believe, he's been more into youth ministry. And he's over the junior high ministry at Wildwood Calvary Chapel in Yucaipa. And we'll do that right after this. So I'm here with Pastor Matt. He's from Wildwood Calvary Chapel in Yucaipa. And first of all, Matt, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
So first of all, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what motivated you to pursue youth ministry?
Yeah, a little bit about me. I have been almost married for almost 10 years now to my wife, Angela.
Wow.
We've adopted our daughter, Audrey, and then we fostered a little boy for a year. That's the big thing on our heart, is to be, the father and the mother to the parentless, if you will. God's called us to that.
Sure.
And then my wife and I own an escape room business, so we kind of have our hands in that. And then again, we've been in ministry at Wildwood for about 11 years, and that's where we actually met.
Awesome.
What motivated me, though, to get into youth ministry, it's interesting. I've only been in youth ministry for about 3 years now. I was in children's ministry for the first about 8 years of ministry. And I'll be honest, the number one motivator for me to come into ministry was I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I'd graduated from high school. I'd been serving in church my whole life, but I had never figured out what I wanted to do. People had spoken into me since I was a little boy, Pastor Matt, like they always called me that, and so it was always kind of this calling that my family had put on my shoulders, and I kind of resented that for a while. And as I just served at church and I sought the Lord, like, God, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go into, can I be a firefighter? I always wanted to be a professional athlete, and apparently you have to have talent and skill to do that. But I don't know. Part of it, honestly, is God putting me in the right place at the right time. And over the years, He's developed my heart to become very passionate about youth ministry. So it wasn't this like graduate from high school, I got to go to a Bible college, go to seminary. I just have this urge and this draw to be a youth pastor. It was just I was serving voluntarily, and the giftings were there, I guess. Someone saw those in me.
Awesome.
I still debate if that's true or not, but yeah, and as I was there, the Lord opened the door, and my heart just became, I just want to meet the need.
Yeah.
That's how my wife and I became foster parents, was we just want to meet a need. We see that there's a need and there's not enough people, right? The harvest is plentiful,
Amen.
But the laborers are few. So Lord, plug me in where you want me. And that's a dangerous thing to say, because you say that and He will. And so that's kind of how it started. And then about 3 years ago, God opened the door to transition me. I didn't ask for it. I don't see it as a promotion, but the door opened for me to step into youth ministry, specifically junior high ministry. And so I've been doing that ever since. And it's been challenging, because junior hires, there's a challenging age.
Yeah.
426 is the ministry I ever saw. It was our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. That was easy. It was fun. It was natural for me because I'm a big kid.
Yeah.
But junior high ministry has been such a challenge, and it's made me realize it's a challenge because of what they're going through, the challenges that they face. So now it's a passion.
Yeah.
And a calling. So yeah,
well, that's a perfect transition. You just mentioned the challenges that they face, and I'm so glad. That's why I wanted to have you on, because you have a heart for the youth and young people, and I'm glad you answered that call that I believe God placed on your heart. And just the time that I know you, and my children know you, and some people that I know, you've made a big impact. So I want to encourage you to keep on in that. So I want to stay focused on the topic of, you just mentioned it, the current generation. I know kids, and you've noticed it in your ministry, they're growing up in a chaotic world, and they're facing all kinds of challenges. What's the most effective way, Pastor Matt, do you think? How can we reach this current generation and help them navigate it successfully?
Yeah. For me, the biggest thing that I'm seeing the need of is to speak the truth in love. Because you have people who want to speak love, but without the truth.
Yeah.
And you have the opposite. You have people who want to speak the truth, but without love. And I think Jesus modeled perfectly for us the balance between those two. Sure, sometimes there's callings and moments for sternness, for being direct, flipping the tables, if you will,
sure.
for calling out the hypocrite or the Pharisee. But it's actually pretty rare. We have one instance in Scripture where Jesus got this righteous anger, if you will. And so for me, I think that there's a balance between that truth and that love. And I think that's the biggest outreach to students is they want love, but there's so much directness coming from the church that they just go, I don't hear anything you're saying because all I hear is don't do this, don't do that. And it's kind of that old thought process is, the Bible is just a book full of laws. And that's the last thing I want to teach. The Bible is not a book full of laws. It has plenty of laws in there, and they're good, and they're beneficial to us. But the Bible is a love story, and it's the most beautiful love story of God's love for us. And that's something for me that I think is really valuable to these kids. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for God's love, but they're being fed the truth, albeit in a lot of places, but they don't hear it because all they hear is rules, rules, rules. Right. So how can we bridge that gap without sacrificing the truth? Because that's the other side. And so I think that there's a important aspect to speaking the truth in love and not wavering. There's a great quote. I have no idea who originally said it, but it's no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Sure. And that's kind of something that has been a motto for me as I approach ministry. And I can have a tendency to be harsh and, if you don't like it, then deal with it. That's the truth.
Sure.
And that is true. But there is an aspect of saying, hey, I want to give you the truth, but how can I do it in a way that shows that I'm bringing you the truth because of the love that I have in my heart for you? I think that's a huge way to impact the youth of today. Is they're now more than ever are very sensitive.
Sure.
And so we need to meet that need. We got to meet them in the middle and bring that truth to them, but with that grace, with that love. And I think that's going to help bridge that gap.
Amen. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. I love speaking the truth in love.
Yeah.
And kids want to talk, but if they come up against this harsh authority figure or parent, they're going to talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
So I love the approach of building the relationship. So that ties into my next question. What is unique about your approach to youth ministry? I know a minute ago you said sometimes you're a big kid.
Yeah.
From what I've seen is you do like to kind of break down the barriers and build a relationship. But then I think you have an ulterior motive in doing that.
For sure. I think the biggest, I don't even know if it's the most unique, but my approach in ministry is I believe that ministry flows through relationships. I grew up in the Calvary circle, if you will, and Calvary is very passionate. If you know anything about Calvary Chapel, is we teach the word, which is incredible, right? But I think sometimes, and I grew up in youth groups, that this was the case, where it's like, hey, we're gonna do 10 to 15 minutes of some worship songs, but it's almost like let's rush and get through that because that pastor's got something to say. Yeah. And then you're gonna sit there and listen to him for 45 minutes to an hour. And I'll be honest with you, I think after about 10 minutes, those junior hires or high schoolers are tuned out. Yeah. And I don't want to, God's word doesn't return void, but I do think there is a diminishing return there. I think that there is a lot being, an opportunity being missed because I have something to say and you got to hear it. Yeah. And so for me, I believe ministry flows through relationships. And I think that Jesus, is an example of that. I mean, he did sit his disciples down. He did sit the multitudes down, and he taught them. but how much more did he teach them in the field, if you will?
Right.
That's what discipleship is. He brought them along with him as he did ministry. Healed the blind and rose people from the dead and fed the 5,000, and all these awesome miracles. He brought the disciples with him. And they were the most instrumental, other than Jesus himself. The disciples, or apostles rather, were the most instrumental characters in Christian history. They were the ones that carried that good news
right.
to the ends of the earth. And what do we see there? Well, we saw a bunch of dorks, a bunch of cowards become the most courageous men. Why? Well, obviously they saw the risen Jesus, and the Holy Spirit was with them.
Amen.
But we also see that they walked with Jesus. And so for me, when it comes to ministry, my desire isn't that I would be some face, some figure that these kids remember, but I don't remember them. I don't want 10 years to go by and one kid comes up and says, "Hey, Pastor Matt," and I go, "Who are you?" My desire is I want to know them. And, our church is growing. We have a big youth group. We probably have, maybe not all at the same service, but we probably have 200, 250 different junior high students and high school students included, or another 200 for them. And, it's hard to know all their names, but I strive for it. I strive to get to know them. We do events. We do discipleship groups during our midweek service. I just want to know them, and I want my leadership team to know them. And so I know other churches do that too, but I would say, that's what I'm saying, it's not the most unique, but that's the most important thing to me, aside of just being a presenter of God's word, of the gospel. How can we minister to them? Again, it's that truth and love. How could they know that you love them unless you have a relationship with them?
Yeah. I think that's so important. Everything you just said, I agree with you. Hearty amen. But being sensitive to what they're going through. Think about the culture being bombarded. I think social media has a huge impact.
Absolutely.
They have everything at their fingertips, at the click of a button, and their attention spans just aren't there like when I was a kid. So I think it's very wise to give those nuggets of truth and build a relationship. But they're not going to sit there and listen. I've had the same experience, you know. In the past when I was pastoring, maybe 45 minutes to an hour to a congregation, but now that I'm more focused on youth and the culture that they're living in, you got to shorten that down to make an impact. So in closing, Pastor Matt, why don't you talk to our parents or the influencers and those that are raising kids or impacting young people? Give a message of hope. Maybe just give them something in leaving that they can shoot for as they influence their young people.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing, right, Scripture tells us to raise up a child in the ways of the Lord, and they will not depart far from it. And that's wisdom that we're given. And I think it's important for us to take hope in that you're doing a good thing. Right? Don't grow weary in doing good. Continue to pour into your kids. I like the word you use, influencers. I think for me as a parent, I'm a new parent, my daughter's going to be 4 here in just a couple months. And something I've learned though, and something I'm taking to heart is I know that God has called my wife and I to be the biggest influence in my daughter's life. And that's something that I've observed over the years of being in youth ministry, of observing parents. I'm a very observant person. The thing that I see that's monumental with children that grow up to love the Lord and walk with the Lord versus families that were Christian families where their kids grew up and they weren't walking with God. I think the number one kind of biggest influencer in that is who is the influencer in those students' lives. And so I would encourage parents to be that influence and to control the influence that is in your kids' lives. My mom often said, I will pick your friends. And that was frustrating to me at times, but I am so grateful for it now because I know that made me who I am now, and so I think that's part of raising your kids up in the ways of the Lord is, hey, I'm going to be the biggest influence as your parent in your life, and I'm going to control the other influences, music, movies, books that you're reading, friends you're hanging out with, the list goes on and on. And so I think the message of hope is this, though. If you're diligent in that, to say, hey, we're going to be focused on raising you in the ways of the Lord, God's word gives us that wisdom. Hey, they won't depart far from it.
Amen.
There might be seasons of prodigalness. Is that a word?
Sure.
There might be seasons of prodigalness, but man, God's word says they won't depart far from it. They'll come back, and so don't lose hope. Maybe you're a parent of a prodigal right now. Like, don't lose hope. Keep praying for them. Know that the seeds that you sowed, God will allow that to grow, and that will be reaped. That will be sowed, if you will, and God will be honored for it. And I really believe that, that child will come back. And so just take hope that God's word is true, and that you're not wasting your time, you're not failing if you're pointing your kids to God.
Amen. I think those are wise words, and you're pumping me up because I support you and what you're doing in your ministry. I love to partner with people like you. So I just want to thank you again for joining Generation Equipped Ministries and giving us some input on the youth of our culture, and hopefully we can have you back sometime.
Absolutely, man. Thanks, brother.
Me.
This is awesome. Love you, bro.
All right.